Conclusion. Why it no longer takes money to make money. While teaching an investment class, I was asked, "What internet company would you recommend I invest in?" I replied, "Why invest in someone else's internet company? Why don't you start your own internet company and ask people to invest in it?" There are many investment books written on how to buy assets. This book has been dedicated to learning how to create assets that buy assets. So why not take the time to consider creating an asset, rather than simply buying an asset? It has never been easier to create your own asset. The world is 10 years old. On October 11, 1998, Merrill Lynch ran a full-page ad in several of the larger American newspapers, announcing that the world was just 10 years old. Why just 10 years old? Because it had been approximately 10 years since the Berlin Wall had come down. Tearing down the Berlin Wall is the event some economic historians use to mark the end of the Industrial Age and the beginning of the Information Age. Until the Information Age, most people had to be investors from the outside. Now more and more people can invest from the inside rather than from the outside. When I answered, "Why invest in someone else's internet company? Why not start your own internet company?" I meant, it is now the Information Age, so why not become an insider instead of an outsider? 3 ages. In the Agrarian Age, the rich were those who owned a castle that overlooked large tracts of fertile agricultural land. Those people were known as the monarchs and the nobles. If you were not born into this group, you were an outsider with very little chance of becoming an insider. The 90-10ths rule controlled life. The 10% who were in power were there because of marriage, birth, or conquest. The other 90% were serfs or peasants who worked the land, but owned nothing. During the Agrarian Age, if you were a good, hard-working person, you were respected. The idea of being diligent was handed down from parent to child. Because 90% of the people worked to support the rich 10% who appeared not to be working, the idle rich began to be loaded. That idea was also handed down from parent to child. These ideas continue to be popular and are still handed down from generation to generation. Then came the Industrial Age, and wealth shifted from agricultural land to real estate. Improvements such as buildings, factories, warehouses, mines, and residential homes for the workers were placed on top of the land. Suddenly, rich, fertile agricultural land dropped in value because the wealth shifted to the owners of the buildings upon the land. In fact, an interesting thing happened. Suddenly, rich, fertile land became less valuable than rocky land where farming was difficult. Rocky land suddenly became more valuable because it was cheaper than fertile land. It could also hold taller buildings such as skyscrapers or factories, and it often contained resources such as the oil, iron, and copper that fueled the Industrial Age. When the shift in ages occurred, many farmers' net worth went down. To maintain their standard of living, they had to work harder and farm more land than before. It was during the Industrial Age that the go to school so you can find a good job idea became popular. In the Agrarian Age, a formal education was not necessary since professions were handed down from parent to child. Bakers taught their children to be bakers, and so on. Near the end of the Agrarian Age, the idea of a job, or the idea of one job for life, became popularized. You went to school, got that one job for life, worked your way up the corporate ladder or up the union ladder, and when you retired, the company and the government took care of your needs. In the Industrial Age, those not of noble birth could become rich and powerful. Rags to riches stories spurred on the ambitious. Entrepreneurs started with nothing and became billionaires. When Henry Ford decided to mass-produce the automobile, he found some cheap rocky land that farmers did not want near a small town known as Detroit, and an industry was born. The Ford family and anyone around them who did business with them became, in essence, the new, rich nobility. New names became as prestigious as those of kings and queens, names such as Rockefeller, Stanford, and Carnegie. People often respected, as well as despised, them for their great wealth and power. However, in the industrial age, as during the agrarian age, only a few controlled most of the wealth. The 90/10 rule still held true, although this time, the 10% was not determined by birth, but by ambition and determination. The 90/10 rule held true simply because it took great effort and coordination as well as a lot of money, people, land, and power to build and control the wealth. For example, to start an automobile company or an oil or mining company is capital intensive. It takes massive amounts of money, lots of land, and many smart formally educated people to build that type of company. On top of that, you often must get through years of bureaucratic red tape such as environmental studies, trade agreements, labor laws, and so on to get such a business off the ground. In the industrial age, the standard of living went up for most people, but the control of real wealth continued to remain in the hands of a few. These rules, however, have changed. The 90/10 rule has changed. When the Berlin Wall came down and the World Wide Web went up, many of the rules changed. One of the most important rules that changed was the 90/10 rule. Although it's likely that only 10% of the population will always control 90% of the money, the access, or the opportunity to join that 10% has changed. The World Wide Web has changed what it costs to join the 10%. Today, it does not take being born into a royal family as it did in the agrarian age. It does not require massive sums of money, land, and people as it did in the industrial age. The price of admission today is an idea, and ideas are free. In the information age, all it takes is information or ideas to become very, very wealthy. It is therefore possible for individuals who are financially obscure one year to be on the list of the richest people in the world the next. Such people often fly past individuals who made their money in the ages gone by. College students who have never had a job become billionaires. High school students will surpass their college student counterparts. In the early 1990s, I remember reading a newspaper article that said, many Russian citizens complained that under communist rule, their creativity was stifled. Now that communist rule is over, many Russian citizens are finding out that they had no creativity. Personally, I think all of us have a brilliant creative idea that is unique to us, an idea that could be turned into an asset. The problem for the Russians, as it is with many citizens all over the world, is that they did not have the advantage of my rich dad's guidance in teaching them to understand the power of the BI triangle. I think it is very important that we teach more individuals to be entrepreneurs and how to take their unique ideas and turn them into businesses that create wealth. If we do so, our prosperity will only increase as the information age expands around the world. For the very first time in world history, the 90/10 rule to wealth may no longer apply. No longer does it take money to make money. No longer does it take vast tracts of land or resources to become rich. No longer does it take friends in high places to become rich. No longer does it matter what family you were born into, what university you went to, or what sex, race, or religion you are. Nowadays, all it takes is an idea, and as Rich Dad has always said, money is an idea. For some people, however, the hardest thing to change is an old idea. There is truth to the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I think a more accurate saying is, you can't teach someone who clings to old ideas new tricks, regardless of whether they are young or old. So when I am asked, what internet company would you invest in? I still reply, why not invest in your own internet company? I am not necessarily suggesting that they start an internet company. All I am doing is asking them to consider the idea, the possibility, of starting their own company. In fact, many franchise and network marketing opportunities are now available on the internet. When people simply consider the idea of starting their own B-quadrant business, their minds shift from hard work and physical limits to the possibility of unlimited wealth. All it takes is the idea. I am not suggesting that such people quit their job and leap into starting a company. But I do suggest that they keep their full-time job and consider starting a business part-time. The challenge of old ideas in news coverage of the stock market You often hear announcers say, old economy versus new economy. In many ways, the people being left behind are people who continue to think in old economy ideas versus new economy ideas. Rich Dad constantly reminded his son and me that money is just an idea. He also warned us to be ever vigilant, to watch our ideas and challenge them when they needed to be challenged. Being young and lacking experience at the time, I never fully realized what he meant. Today, older and wiser, I have tremendous respect for his warning to challenge our old ideas. As Rich Dad said, what is right for you today could be wrong for you tomorrow. I have watched Amazon.com, a company starting out without any profits or any real estate, grow faster and become more valuable in the stock market than established retailers such as Sears and J.C. Penney. A new not yet profitable online retailer is perceived as more valuable than industrial-age retailers with solid profits, years of experience, massive real estate holdings, and more assets than any monarch of old. But the new online retailer is considered more valuable just because it does not require massive amounts of real estate, money, and people in order to do business. The very things that made industrial-age retailers valuable in the industrial age are making them less valuable in the information age. You often hear people say, the rules have changed. I often wonder what the future holds for these older retailers and their investors as more and more internet companies slice into profit margins, selling the same products for lower prices. What will that mean in the future to investor loyalty and to job security, pay raises, and benefits for employees? And what will happen to the value of real estate? Only time will tell. Many of the new internet companies have failed and investors have lost millions, if not billions, of dollars. They failed because, ultimately, profits and positive cash flow are how a business survives. But many industrial-age companies are also failing because of price competition from these online retailers with no real estate. I recently heard an old-school retailer say, "We will make shopping an entertaining experience." The problem with such thinking is that making shopping an entertaining experience is expensive. Many shoppers will come to enjoy the experience, but will still buy online for a better price. I have a dear friend who has been my travel agent for years. However, she now has to charge me a service fee for my airline tickets because the airlines have stopped paying her a commission on ticket sales. She has had to release several of her loyal staff and now worries that I will shift to buying my tickets for a lower price online. At the same time, online travel companies have sprouted up with various strategies, like auctioning off perishable products known as empty airline seats. While the online travel companies become wealthy, my dear friend lays off staff and counts on her loyal customers to stay with her because she will work harder and provide better service. I am sure she will do okay, but the business she started years ago as her retirement safety net has now become a full-time job with no assurance that it will be of any value whatsoever when she's ready to retire. Things have changed. Since it does not take money to make money, then why not go out and make a lot of money? Why not find investors to invest in your idea so you can all become rich? The answer is that often, old ideas get in the way. Because the online world is relatively young, the good news is that it is not too late to change your thinking and begin to catch up if you have not already started. The bad news is that sometimes, the hardest things to change are old ideas. Some of the old ideas that may need to be challenged are the ones that have been handed down for generations. Be a good, hard-working person. The reality today is that the people who physically work the hardest are paid the least and taxed the most. I am not saying not to work hard. All I am saying is that we need to constantly challenge our older thoughts and maybe rethink new ones. Consider working hard in a part-time business for yourself. Today, instead of being in just one quadrant, we need to be very familiar with all four quadrants of the cash flow quadrant. After all, we're in the information age, and working hard at one job for life is an old idea. The idle rich are lazy. The reality is that the less you are involved physically in your work, the greater your chances are of becoming very rich. Again, I am not saying to not work hard. I am suggesting that today, we all need to learn to make money mentally, not just physically. Those who make the most money work the least physically. They work the least because they work for passive income and portfolio income rather than ordinary earned income. And as you know by now, all a true investor does is turn ordinary earned income into passive and portfolio income. In my mind, today's idle rich are therefore not lazy. It is just that their money is working harder than they are. If you want to join the 90/10ths crowd, you must learn to make money mentally more than physically. Go to school and get a job. In the industrial age, people retired at age 65 because they were often too worn out to lift tires and put engines into a car on the assembly line. Today, you are technically obsolete and ready for retirement every 18 months, which is how fast information and technology are doubling. Many people say a student today is technically obsolete immediately upon graduation from school. Now more than ever, my rich dad's statement is even more relevant. School smarts are important, but so are street smarts. We are a self-learning society, not a society that learns from its parents, as in the agrarian age, or from its schools, as in the industrial age. Kids are teaching their parents how to use computers, and companies are looking for high-tech kids more than for middle-aged executives with college degrees. To stay ahead of the obsolescence curve, continual learning from school as well as the street is vitally important. When I speak to young people, I advise them to think like professional athletes as well as college professors. Professional athletes know their careers will be over as soon as younger athletes can beat them. College professors know that they will become more valuable the older they get if they continue to study. Both points of view are important today. Rich Dad's advice is even more true today. For those of you who have read my first two books, Rich Dad Poor Dad and Cash Flow Quadrant, you know the difficulty I went through listening to two different dads and their ideas about money, business, and investing. In 1955, my poor dad kept saying, "Go to school, get good grades, and find a safe and secure job." On the other hand, my rich dad kept saying, "Mind your own business." My poor dad did not think investing was important. He would say, "The business and the government are responsible for your retirement and medical needs. A retirement plan is part of your benefit package, and you are entitled to it." My rich dad would say, "Mind your own business." My poor dad believed in being a good, hard-working man. He would say, "Find a job and work your way up the ladder. Remember that companies do not like people who move around a lot. Companies reward people for seniority and loyalty." My rich dad said, "Mind your own business." My rich dad believed that you must constantly challenge your ideas. My poor dad believed strongly that his education was valuable and most important. He believed in the idea of right answers and wrong answers. My rich dad believed that the world is changing, and we need to continually keep learning. Rich Dad did not believe in right answers or wrong answers. He believed instead in old answers and new answers. He would say, "You cannot help but get older physically, but that does not mean you have to get older mentally. If you want to stay younger longer, just adopt younger ideas." People get old or obsolete because they cling to right answers that are old answers. Here are some examples of right answers that are old answers today. Can humans fly? The correct answer prior to 1900 was no. Today, it is obvious that humans are flying everywhere, even in space. Is the Earth flat? The correct answer in 1492 was yes. After Columbus sailed to the New World, the old right answer was obsolete. Is land the basis of all wealth? The answer before the industrial age was yes. Today, the answer is a resounding no. It takes an idea and knowledge from the B and I quadrants to make that idea real. Once you prove you know what to do, the world is full of rich investors looking to give their money to you. Doesn't it take money to make money? I am most frequently asked this question. The answer is no. In my opinion, it has always been no. My answer has always been, it does not take money to make money. It takes information to make, as well as to keep, money. The difference is that it has become much more obvious today that it does not take money or hard labor to make a lot of money. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. No one does. That is why Rich Dad's idea of constantly challenging and updating ideas was one of the most important ideas he passed on to me. Today, I see so many of my friends falling behind professionally as well as financially, simply because they fail to challenge their own ideas. Their ideas are often very old answers handed down for generations, from one economic era to another. Some high school kids plan on never having jobs. Their plan is to bypass the whole industrial age idea of job security and become financially free billionaires instead. This is why I ask people to think about building their own internet business, either on their own or through a franchise or network marketing company, instead of just looking for one to invest in. Today's thinking process is very different, and it may challenge some very old right ideas. Those old ideas often make the process of change difficult. Ideas just need to be better. Always remember that once you have mastered the guidelines found in the BI triangle, you can virtually take nothing and turn it into an asset. When I am asked what my first successful investment was, I simply reply, my comic book business. In other words, I took comic books that were going to be thrown away and created an asset around them, using the principles found in the BI triangle. Starbucks did the same thing with a cup of coffee. So ideas do not have to be new and unique. They just have to be better. This has been going on for centuries. In other words, things do not have to be high-tech to be better. In fact, many things that we take for granted today, were very high-tech yesterday. There are many individuals who spend their lives copying other people's ideas rather than creating their own. I have two acquaintances that make it a practice of taking other people's ideas. Although they may make a lot of money, there is a price for taking other people's ideas without their permission or giving credit where credit is due for those ideas. The price these people pay, although they may make a lot of money, is the respect of the people that know they take other people's ideas without permission. As my rich dad often said, there is a fine line between copying and stealing. If you are creative, you have to be careful of thieves who steal ideas. They are just as bad as people who burglarize your home. Because there are more people stealing than creating, it becomes ever more important to have an intellectual property attorney on your team protecting your creations. One of the most important technological changes in the history of the Western world took place during the Crusades, when Christian soldiers came across the Hindu-Arabic system of numbers. The Hindu-Arabic system of numbers, so named because the Arabs found this numbering system during their invasion of India, replaced Roman numerals. Few people appreciate the difference this new system of numbers has made upon our lives. The Hindu-Arabic system of numbers allowed people to sail further out to sea with greater accuracy, architecture could be more ambitious, timekeeping could be more accurate, and the human mind could be sharpened, allowing people to think more accurately, abstractly, and critically. It was a major technological change that had a tremendous effect on all of our lives. The Hindu-Arabic numbering system was not a new idea. It was simply a better idea. And on top of that, it was someone else's idea. Many of the most financially successful people are not necessarily people who have creative ideas. Many of them often just copy other people's ideas and turn the idea into millions or even billions of dollars. Fashion designers watch young kids to see what new fashions they are wearing, and then they simply mass-produce those fashions. Bill Gates did not invent the operating system that made him the richest man in the world. He simply bought the system from the computer programmers who did invent it and then licensed their product to IBM. The rest is history. Amazon.com simply took Sam Walton's idea for Walmart and put it on the internet. Jeff Bezos became rich much more quickly than Sam Walton. In other words, who says you need to have creative ideas to be rich? You just need to be better at the BI triangle and at taking ideas and turning them into riches. Following in your parents' footsteps, Tom Peters, author of In Search of Excellence, has been saying over and over again, job security is dead. Yet many people continue saying to their children, go to school so you can find a secure job. Many people struggle financially simply because they have their parents' ideas about money. Instead of creating assets that buy assets, most of our parents worked for money and then bought liabilities with that money, innocently thinking they were assets. That is why many people go to school and get good jobs, because that is what their parents did or advised them to do. Many struggle financially, or live paycheck to paycheck, because that is what their parents did. When I teach my investment classes, a very important exercise is for students to compare what they are doing today to what their parents did or advised them to do. Many times, students realize that they are either following closely in their parents' footsteps or are following their parents' advice. At that point, they have the power to question these old ideas that have been running their lives. If a person truly wants to change, adopting a better idea is often a good idea. My rich dad always said, if you want to get richer faster, simply look for ideas that are better than the ones you are using today. That is why, to this day, I read biographies of rich entrepreneurs and listened to recordings of their lives and their ideas. As Rich Dad said, ideas need not be new. They just need to be better, and a rich person is always looking for better ideas. Poor people often defend their old ideas or criticize new ones. Only the paranoid survive. Andy Grove, former chairman of Intel, titled his book, Only the Paranoid Survive. He got that title from Dr. Joseph A. Schumpeter, a former Austrian minister of finance and Harvard Business School professor. Dr. Schumpeter expressed this idea that only the paranoid survive in his book, Capitalism, Socialism, and Democracy. Dr. Schumpeter was the father of the modern study of dynamics, the growth and change in economics. Lord Keynes was the father of the study of statics, or static economics. Dr. Schumpeter's idea is that capitalism is creative destruction, a perpetual cycle of destroying the old, less efficient product or service and replacing it with new, more efficient ones. Dr. Schumpeter believed that governments that allow the existence of capitalism, which tears down weaker and less efficient businesses, will survive and thrive. Governments that put up walls to protect the less efficient will fall behind. My rich dad agreed with Dr. Schumpeter, which is why he was a capitalist. Rich Dad challenged Mike and me to constantly challenge our ideas, because if we didn't, someone else would. Today, people with old ideas are those who are falling behind the fastest. The world we face today reminds me of the song The Times They Are A-Changin'. A line from that song goes, "For you'd better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone." Although that song was written many years ago, it reflects our future more and more. In other words, just because you're rich or poor today does not mean you will be in the near future. Your past success means nothing. Those who do not risk failing will ultimately fail. My poor dad looked upon failure as a thing, and my rich dad looked upon failure as an action. That difference made a big difference over a lifetime. In Future Edge, Joel Barker wrote, "When a paradigm shifts, everyone goes back to zero. Your past success means nothing. In this fast-changing world, paradigms will be changing faster and faster, and your past successes could mean nothing." In other words, just because you work for a good company today does not ensure that it will be a good company tomorrow. For this reason, Grove chose to title his book, Only the Paranoid Survive. Even employee benefits are changing. The information age changed the rules of retirement plans from defined benefit pension plans to defined contribution pension plans. The change has also affected some employee benefits. A friend who works for an airline said, "It used to be easy to get free flights on airlines, which is one of the benefits of being an airline employee. But today, with airlines auctioning off empty seats online, the planes are flying full and I find it harder to use a benefit I love." The rules have changed. As this book draws to a close, I will leave you with some ideas about the changes that we all face today, changes that were brought on once the Berlin Wall went down and the World Wide Web went up. In his book, The Lexus and the Olive Tree, Thomas L. Friedman describes several changes between the Industrial Age and the Information Age. Some of the changes are: 1. Industrial Age, Einstein's E equals mc2, Information Age, Moore's Law. During the Cold War, Einstein's theory of relativity, E equals mc2, ruled. In 1945, when the United States dropped the atomic bomb on Japan, America became the economic power of the world and took military dominance away from England. During the 1980s, everyone thought Japan was about to beat the United States economically, and the Nikkei stock market surged. But Japan's period of economic dominance was short-lived because the United States redefined itself. The United States redefined itself because it shifted from E equals mc2 to Moore's Law. Moore's Law states that the power of technology will double every 24 months. America became the leading world power because it led in technology as well as weaponry. If America had remained in the weapons race only, we would have soon become a bankrupt nation like the former Soviet Union. When the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, America's capital markets shifted quickly into the information age. That freedom to change quickly is the financial power provided by a free capitalistic society. Japan as well as England cannot change that quickly because both countries have too many ties to the days of the feudal system, otherwise known as the monarchy, an agrarian age institution. Unconsciously, those countries are waiting for the monarch to lead them. In other words, innovation is often hampered by traditions. That idea is true for individuals as well as nations. As Rich Dad said, old ideas get in the way of new ideas. I am not suggesting that we get rid of old traditions. Rather, because we are now in the information age, we need expanded ideas. 2. Industrial Age, weight of missiles, information age, speed of modems. When the Berlin Wall came down, E equals mc2 changed to Moore's Law. The power in the world shifted from the weight of nuclear warheads to how fast your modem is. The good news is that a fast modem costs a lot less than big missiles. Speed matters more than weight. 3. Industrial Age, 2 world powers in charge, information age, no one in charge. During the Cold War, there were 2 superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Today, the Internet makes the idea of a borderless world and a global economy a reality. Today, the electronic herd, which is the thousands of fund managers who control great sums of money, has the power to affect world politics more than politicians do. If the electronic herd does not like the way a country is managing their financial affairs, they will move their money elsewhere at the speed of light. It is not the politicians who have the power today, as they did in the Industrial Age. In the Information Age, it is the power of global digital money that often dictates a country's affairs. When Bill Gates crossed the border from the United States to Canada some years ago, the customs agent asked him if he had anything of value to declare. He pulled out a stack of floppy disks wrapped in rubber bands. "This is worth at least $50 billion, he said. The customs agent shrugged, thinking he was talking to a nut, and let the richest man in the world pass through the border without paying anything in taxes. The point is that the bundle of floppy disks wrapped in rubber bands really was worth at least $50 billion. That bundle of floppy disks was the prototype of Microsoft's Windows 95. Super-rich individuals like Gates often have more money and more influence over the world than many large nations. Such power caused the US government to take Gates to court for monopolistic practices. When that case started, a friend of mine said, "The frightening thing is that Gates can afford to hire better attorneys than the US government can. That is because the US government is an industrial age institution, and Gates is an information age individual." Following in this line of thinking, George Soros believes that many corporations have much more money and power than many Western nations. That means there are corporations today that could damage the economy of an entire nation just to benefit a few shareholders. That is how much power many corporations have. In the years ahead, many changes, both good and bad, will occur. I believe that capitalism will be unleashed to its fullest extent. Old and obsolete businesses will be wiped out. Competition, as well as the need to be cooperative, will increase. Younger companies will buy out older ones. These changes are all happening because the genie known as technology has been released from the bottle, and information and technology are now cheap enough for everyone to afford. The good news is that for the very first time, the 90/10 rule of the rich no longer needs to apply. It is now possible for more and more people to gain access to the great world of infinite wealth, the wealth found in information. And information is infinite, not restricted as land and resources were in ages gone by. The bad news is that the people who cling to old ideas may be brutalized by the changes upon us, as well as by the changes yet to come. If Rich Dad were alive today, he might say, the internet is much like the California gold rush of the 1850s. The only difference is that you do not need to leave your home to participate in it, so why not participate in it? He would probably go on to say, during any economic bonanza, there are only three kinds of people: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who say, what happened? Although I started with Einstein's theory of relativity as an obsolete idea from the Cold War, I also think of Einstein as a true visionary. Even then, he recognized an idea that is even truer today: imagination is more important than knowledge. The really good news is that, for the first time in history, the internet gives more and more people the ability to see the other side of the coin if they go there with open eyes. Taking my ideas and creating an asset with those ideas was one of the best challenges I have undertaken. Although not always successful, my skills increased with each new venture, and I could see a world of possibilities that few people see. So the good news is that the internet makes it easier for more people to access a world of abundance that for centuries has been available to just a few. The internet makes it possible for more people to take their ideas, create assets that buy other assets, and have their financial dreams come true. We've only just begun. Karen and Richard Carpenter sang a song entitled We've Only Just Begun. For those of you who think you may be too old to start over again, always remember that Colonel Sanders started all over again at age 66. The advantage we have over the Colonel is that we are all now in the information age, where it only matters how young we are mentally, not how old we are physically. Your most important investment: you are making an important investment by reading this book, regardless of whether you agree with it or not. In today's ever-changing world, the most important investment you can make is an investment in ongoing education and searching for new ideas. So keep searching, and keep challenging your old ideas. One of the main points of this book is that you have the power to create a world of not enough money as well as a world of an abundance of money. Creating a world of an abundance of money does require a degree of creativity, a high standard of financial and business literacy, a mindset for seeking opportunities rather than for seeking security, and the ability to be cooperative instead of competitive. Rich Dad guided me in shaping my thoughts by saying, you can choose to live in a world of not enough money or a world of too much money. That choice is up to you. A final word: Rich Dad's advice to the average investor at the beginning of the book was, don't be average. Regardless of whether you invest to be secure, comfortable, or rich, please have a plan for each level. In the information age, an age with faster changes, fewer guarantees, and more opportunities, your financial education and investor knowledge is vitally important. For Rich Dad Poor Dad audiobook, click on top right corner. And for Rich Dad Poor Dad audiobook playlist, find the link in description. Thank you for giving your valuable time for this video. We hope you learned something new today. Stay tuned for our next videos. Hey, don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video to your friends. And turn on bell notification for our updates.